And I don't know if we're going live yet. And we're live. We should be live. We should be live. Let's see here if it's actually.
Should we be live?
We should be live. Let's see if we're live. I don't know if we're alive.
We should be dead.
We could be dead. That could be too. Oh, it looks like we're alive. And we're alive. All right, guys. Wait, I mean we're live. My bad. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to WordCast. We're back. Finally. If you guys have been following the channel, you already know why we've been gone. We were on vacation, but the internet wasn't good enough there to really do anything. So yeah, that's the thing. We're dropping the majority of our frames for some reason because it's only streaming at Comcast. Are you doing your network again? Please, no.
I've literally been doing it all day.
I know, but the speeds have been fine. The speeds are supposed to go out until tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
No.
Some countries.
What? Let's run a speed test here.
Oh man. Let's to the right server.
Okay, I'm starting the stream's live now. So, alright, hello everybody. The stream is live now. So hopefully things actually kind of work out this time.
I actually want to know.
So anyway, alright, it looks like it's working now. Hello everybody, welcome to WordCast number 51. We've been gone a while because, well, stuff and things and stuff.
Yeah.
Basically we were on vacation, so that was a thing. And we had some internet issues and some other stuff like that. We're not dropping frames anymore, so congratulations on that part. So, yeah, anyway, a lot of news to cover this time. It's mostly recent stuff, not some stuff that was from the last couple of weeks, because there was just no point in adding that in. A lot of that's already been talked about, but we wanted to talk about some of the most recent things. Of course, like NVIDIA's GPP, GeForce Partner Program, as well as AMD's 13 major flaws. So, you know, that kind of stuff. Hey, you guys need to seriously be quiet. It's live right now, and you guys are talking fairly loud, like I can hear you almost over me. So anyway, so, alright. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the GeForce Partner Program. We're going to be talking about AMD's various flaws that have been kind of talked about extensively, but are really sketchy. I read the white paper on that, so that'll be, I have some interesting information, interesting opinions on that. But anyway, thank you everybody for joining in. So, yeah. And, oh, don't forget about all of our links in the description. We've got Patreon. We've got our links to our website and other stuff like that down there. So, anything you want to add to the intro?
Not really.
No? All right. So, first order of business. This is one you talked about originally. So, you mentioned
this is some sad news. So, Stephen Hawking has passed away.
Yeah. It's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah.
So... yeah,
I wanted to make sure everyone knew that. It
surprised me that he passed away. I mean,
I didn't realize how old he was.
Yeah, I thought he was like in his like 50s or 60s.
Yeah,
but
he was 76.
Apparently not. So yeah, I mean he was pretty old, but it's still unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people thought he was gonna live a lot longer. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But as far as we know, oh my goodness.
Okay.
Keep
going.
Why don't you come on stream like that? No, I don't want to get banned. Alright. Woo! We are the most professional group of streamers on the planet. We really know what we're doing here. So
Very professional.
Very professional. Alright. But yeah, he passed away peacefully in his home. We don't really know exactly the cause, assuming maybe old age or something like that.
His disease.
Or yeah. that's a thing too. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty sad. He did a lot of interesting things, and it's just unfortunate to see him go. So yeah.
Next topic. Since it's Pi Day, we're gonna talk about a new pie.
Yeah. So Daniel bought a pie today.
No, I was trying to buy. Oh, I bought a pie.
You bought a pie today. You bought a pie today. It was pretty good.
That wasn't what I was gonna talk about though.
Oh, what were you gonna talk about?
The raspberry pie.
You didn't buy a raspberry pie today. You bought it was like a chocolate pie.
Okay, so there's a new version of the Raspberry Pi out. It's a minor upgrade. So they have the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B was already the current one. Now they have the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. Essentially, it's got a couple small differences, and by small, I mean a couple significant ones.
So a couple of years from now, we'll have the Raspberry Pi 3BWCD++-.
No.
because they keep adding more letters.
But not every year. So it has 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, and a slightly faster 1.4 gigahertz quad-core processor. Now, while that doesn't sound all that significant as far as the processor goes, it's still going from 1.2 to 1.4 is very nice.
I mean, it's a significant. It's across 4 cores, and it's still exactly. And so that's enough of a performance bump that maybe some applications that we're seeing issues running on the like 1.2 gigahertz setup that maybe they're gonna actually be able to perform a little bit better now.
Now, when are we gonna get a Raspberry Pi with tensor cores?
And 10 gigahertz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A 10 gigahertz tensor core.
Tensor gigahertz. No. I'm sorry, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was.
All right.
So they're already sold out at Element 14 and on Amazon. And so pretty much the only place to get them is a UK site, which would not let me change my location. Like, it had a link for it, but it was...
I know, that was weird. It just wouldn't let you click on it. Yeah. Oh, man. Are you still planning to get one?
At some point, when I can.
When's that going to be?
When I can. I don't control that.
Why not?
Because I don't own Element 14.
Well, I mean, maybe you should.
No.
Why not?
I don't want to own a retailer.
Why not? They make money.
And?
I mean, money's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
interesting.
First podcast in a while. I'm sorry. I'm nervous, guys. I'm just kidding. Yeah. All right. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for it. I might actually pick up a Pi at some point and do some stuff.
And throw it in a drawer and not use it?
Yeah, just like you're going to do. No, I might buy a Raspberry Pi at some point.
The guy who bought a 3D printer, printed the test print, and hasn't used it since.
That is not my fault, and you know that.
Yeah,
so...
By the way, we both bought 3D printers.
Yeah, we both bought 3D printers. I think a lot happened on this vacation while we were gone, including lots of debt.
And your laptop.
And I got a laptop, which yeah, this laptop's a new thing, which...
the most expensive thing here, don't even...
I talked about...
It's $1,800.
Yeah, but he bought that before we went, so that didn't get
True.
It didn't get charged until we were there. Hey! Anyway, yeah, I got an XPS 15.
You didn't pay for it yet anyway.
That's true. I got an XPS 15. I'll be doing a bunch of video content on this for you guys. I talked about that in my little channel update video that I did a couple days ago on Monday. But yeah, new XPS 15, 9560. It's got the 6700 HQ. So, pretty beastly processor there. Or is it the 7700 HQ? I can't remember now.
How do you not know your own computer?
I'm having a brain fart because I think I'm thinking back to the Sega, which had the... Yeah, it's the 7700 HQ. I was thinking of the Sega that had the 6700K. And then I upgraded it to 32 gigs of RAM, got the 1TB SSD installed in it, and the GTX 1050. Honestly, though, first thoughts are I'm very impressed with it, both battery life-wise and performance-wise. And things are pretty playable on it, actually. So 1050 is not a bad GPU at all. But anyway, yeah, so I just... mentioning that. So, Boring Company did something interesting, though. We're kind of getting through the slightly smaller topics here at the beginning, but don't worry, guys. There's a lot of detailed stuff towards the end here.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what the Boring Company is, it's Elon Musk's idea for dealing with traffic by digging tunnels. Lots and lots of tunnels for much cheaper and doing it much faster than we currently do. The idea is single car size tunnels, so instead of having enough space for actual multiple lane roadways. Originally, the plan was a car would go onto this elevator, essentially, that would go down, and the sled would pull the car. So you don't need emergency services because the car's not driving, so they have different regulations for that. And long story short, it was supposed to cut down on traffic by being able to just continually add lanes. So short-range traffic within the cities would still exist, but this would be more so for medium range travel. So like if you're going from one end of a large city to the other end, this would go 120 miles an hour, so it'd save you a lot of time.
It's kind of surprising to see them switch directions so suddenly, in my opinion.
I mean, it probably wasn't suddenly, it was just publicly.
I suppose, yeah. I don't dislike the idea of what they're doing
so essentially the change in direction is that they are switching from focusing initially on cars to direct pedestrian transportation.
Yeah.
So in the video that they showed originally for the Boring Company, they showed the cars driving and going onto the sled. They also showed a bus idea. And it looks like now they're just going with the bus idea that doesn't drive on the surface. It's just the sled. So you go into the sled at the time it's supposed to be there, and then it leaves. My theory is that they are not progressing with the car sled as quickly as they would like. They might have some new complications that might have delayed it.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it might not even be technical complications. It could also be regulatory stuff or whatever. So.
Yeah, because I mean, especially when you're dealing with like some of the areas they want to dig are multiple like crossing through states and stuff. So you have to deal with multiple states regulations. And so pedestrian transportation is kind of the focus right now.
Yep.
Also Hyperloop for longer range. So the idea is for really long range travel, you would just use SpaceX eventually.
Yeah.
For long range, like 500-mile travel, you would use the Hyperloop, and then for city travel, you would use the bus-like system, and then for neighborhood travel, you would just walk, or for people that don't like walking, you could use an automated car.
Yep. Or a scooter.
Or Segway.
Swagway.
No.
Yeah, you gotta use the Swagway.
No, everyone can be Casey Neistat and use boosted boards.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It would cut down on traffic.
Just get a really big drone and just fly around.
I mean, they're working on those drones that you get into.
That's true, they are.
There's quite a lot of companies. I know Google's working on something now. There's quite a lot of companies actually working on that. It's pretty exciting. I just don't want to have one break.
Well, not only have one break, but,
at least with airplanes, when a motor goes out, they can glide.
Well, I mean, not just that, but I mean, in case, people weren't aware, a lot of drones, that are fairly good size only have about a 15-minute battery life. And then the ones that are a little bigger have about a 15-minute battery life. And the ones that are a little smaller have about a 15-minute battery life because batteries weigh a certain amount and the ratio works out in terms of, I bet if you made a drone to carry a person, it'd have like 15 minutes of battery life. So you're going to have petrol powered or something like that in order for it to appropriately function.
I mean, we'll see.
So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because, I mean, maybe once you get to a certain size, it scales up to be powerful enough that,
that and while alternate battery tech is not viable for consumer electronics like a phone, we don't know if maybe they're testing, because this isn't something that's going to be even releasing this year, probably the next. If it's a few years out, they might be testing new battery technology for...
It could be. I mean, there was a report I read recently, and I didn't read into the details of it, so it's not in the doc here, but some people were discovering how to more easily grow graphene that could be used. And if that can be used in battery technology and we can actually make enough of it, then that can be useful. So, I don't know.
But yeah, I'm excited to see this. There's already actually a very small video about the change, essentially just like a miniature version of the bus video. But they're working on a longer, more detailed version of how that system would work. And they're also already working on digging tunnels in multiple cities.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
They're making some serious progress already, which is crazy because this company is like 2 to 3% of Elon Musk's time.
Yeah, I know. It's his lowest priority right now in terms of his various companies and projects.
It's like Tesla and SpaceX make up, I think he said, like 80%.
Yeah.
And then...
SpaceX being the majority of that.
Yeah. And then, no, Tesla.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because SpaceX, he's just a designer.
Oh, that makes sense.
And Tesla's a massive company.
Yeah. No, I know Tesla's huge. Yeah.
It's literally one of the only 2 U.S. auto manufacturers that hasn't gone bankrupt.
That's true. What's the other one?
I think Ford.
Well, yeah, that's true. Ford. Yeah. I won't get into the details. This is not a car show, but yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
you're correct. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm excited to see what really comes of this and when we actually can use stuff like this.
Especially when the company is being funded by hats and flamethrowers.
I mean, it's pretty great. Yeah. Well, no, they're not being funded by hats and flamethrowers. No, they're being funded by hats and not a flamethrower.
But Elon Musk called it a flamethrower at South by Southwest. Because they've already shipped, or they might be shipping them already. Or he might have at least gotten them through customs. Gets them through customs, changes the name back.
I mean, he could.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? He could.
Yeah, Elon Musk actually did a pretty cool talk at South by Southwest, or like just an interview, I guess. If you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. I watched the whole thing.
Okay.
Because, duh.
Yeah.
It's Elon Musk. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, especially you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're related to him, so.
I wish.
Really?
Huh? Yeah, I have much better DNA.
All right. So, an unauthorized space launch. This was interesting. You and I were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, so this has never happened before.
Literally ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of sketchy.
So there's a Silicon Valley tech startup called Swarm Technologies. They were testing they wanted to test communication satellites. Now, when you're doing that, you have to get licenses from the FCC for the spectrum that the satellites would use. Just like if a cell phone company wants to start up, they have to get the spectrum.
Right.
You can't just... Yeah, you can just use spectrum. You'd also get shut down, sued, who knows what else.
Jail, likely. Yeah.
And so these guys were requesting the license. Now, the FCC, while they are a communications thing and they are specifically licensing spectrum, they are authorized to, in their approval of satellites, take into account how satellites would affect the problem of space debris.
Yeah.
And they denied these licenses because of that clause. Essentially what it is that these satellites are extremely small, and there's a concern about being able to track them and plot essentially how future satellites could avoid them to not crash. Crashing in space is very bad because it creates a ton of small particles that can hit satellites.
Well, I mean, crashing's bad because, everything's moving so fast that the initial crash is bad, too. Yeah. And then you have all the particles afterwards.
And then those particles create more crashes, and it becomes just a constant cycle, an exponential growth of stuff in space. And if it's not something that is dealt with long term, there is going to...
It's going to be hard to deal with in the future.
And eventually it will, if it keeps going, just with the current satellites that are up there, if they were to all break into all small pieces, GPS gone. Space launches not happening.
Yeah.
So this is an actual, very serious problem. And
that nobody's talking about.
A lot of people are talking about it.
You know what I mean? Nobody, there's not a lot of government entities talking about it.
I mean,
which isn't necessarily surprising.
That's because the U.S. government changes NASA's objective every 4 to 8 years.
That's true.
So NASA pretty much can't do anything.
Yeah. But this needs to be dealt with.
Elon Musk is working on something. He actually was talking about, I don't know if it's still on the plans. I would assume so because their company makes their money launching satellites, so the space debris problem is a direct threat to their profit.
Yeah.
However, he did talk about the idea that when they have the BFR ready, they would be able to design some like a top section of the rocket that would actually be able to be used for space debris collection after launching satellites.
Right.
So be able to launch satellites and then at no extra cost grab stuff and come back down and dispose of that safely. And that means recycling some of those parts.
Which is good.
Yeah. Because some of those parts are big money.
We could fire a laser into outer space, and it'd be like a wall laser.
Okay, so
you put the wall laser up there, and all the space debris would flow through it, and it would destroy all the space debris.
So this moron was complaining about the brightness of the sun earlier and thought we should cut the sun into small pieces with a laser.
Yes, you cut the sun into small pieces with a laser, and you remove those pieces so the sun's not as bright.
And then the sun regrows to that spot because you didn't get rid of the actual matter in the inside creating that reaction.
Well, then you make a bigger laser that carves a hole and you extract from the middle.
Then you cut out the sun. And die.
No, you make the laser stop partway through the sun.
Oh my god, no.
I'm sorry. I'm a moron.
Yeah, I agree.
Professional, okay? Alright?
Okay, so back to the satellite thing.
So back to the professional subjects from these professionals.
No.
What?
So the FCC right now isn't taking any action. Essentially, they are going to do some more analysis on the trajectory of them and see how this affects the current situation in space before they make their decision on what the punishment will be, or if this company will ever be able to get future licenses again.
Right. Yes.
Because this company is, even after this, still requesting additional licenses. I feel like if they want to do space launches, their best bet is to move to another country.
Yeah.
Because even though they launched...
break the law and then ask for forgiveness.
Well, this is... I was going to say, never mind, this is not a politics podcast.
Right.
They did launch it on an Indian rocket. However, if they're a U.S. company, they have to get U.S. permission.
Exactly. Yep.
So their best bet is moving to another country.
Well, I mean, their best bet was. Now they're screwed.
No,
they're gonna be screwed.
They're not screwed.
Maybe.
They'll be screwed in 3 years.
Yeah, something along those lines. Exactly. So the reason I was laughing, by the way, is I got a message from a buddy of mine that's watching the podcast right now that shows my username because I'm logged in on Windows here, watching myself. So it says Plane Drop is watching Plane Drop live, and
Right.
So I thought that was pretty great. Yeah. So anyway, pretty solid professionalism on this podcast here. Hey, we've been gone a couple of weeks. It's good that we're getting back into the flow of things.
By talking about stupid lasers.
We're being professional, more than normal, and I mean we have way more viewers than normal. Look at this, we have 2.
That's depressing.
I was just kidding. That's actually way less than normal. But no worries. It's all good. So anyway,
we also changed the start time.
We changed the start time. We started a half hour late, and then we changed the start time to earlier. Did 1 podcast or 2 was it, and then didn't do 3, and now we're back. But we're back for the rest of the year consistently, guys, unless the internet goes down again, because that was a problem as well.
Which they are doing work in your area?
They are doing work in my area, but it's only supposed to be down tomorrow because Comcast is installing fiber, which hopefully means I actually get good speeds.
Right. Comcast doesn't lie.
No, that's true. They don't lie. Right, exactly.
Comcast is never late.
Comcast is, yeah. But anyway, it's supposed to be down tomorrow, so I'm hoping it's done by Wednesday is kind of what I'm trying to say. So, the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S are both getting FreeSync support very soon.
Yes.
As many of you know, but those of you that maybe don't, they're powered by AMD hardware. AMD FreeSync is an adaptive refresh rate technology, and it's something that's honestly a really big benefit to games. I love using it personally.
Now, that being said,
yeah.
For most console games, this won't make as much of a difference because console games are generally designed to be locked.
Yes, and that's correct. They generally are, but this would allow them to not have to be locked. So they don't have to do as much dynamic resolution scaling. They can keep the quality a little bit higher.
Dynamic resolution scaling.
More are starting to,
on
though.
the Switch.
Yeah, on the Switch even more so, but a lot more are starting to, even on the Xbox now. It's starting to become more common.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to get at is now they could have slightly higher quality presets that say can run at 75 FPS the majority of the time, but if it dips down into 62 or 53, it doesn't look like crap. You don't notice a huge difference.
Yeah, so this is coming soon. Also, it's getting 1440p support in the spring update,
which is pretty interesting.
So pretty much, it's a gaming PC with less games.
Yeah, and less options that
and
you
no
can do with it.
exclusives.
And and no exclusives.
Because all the exclusives are on PC now, for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. And
so
then,
don't buy an Xbox One X.
I mean, basically.
Buy a Switch, a PS4, and a PC, and you're good.
Yes.
You can play every game on the market.
Or just a Switch and a PC, and you can not play every game on
and
the
then
market.
You can rent your friend's PS4.
Yeah, well, I'm renting his PS4 to play Shadow of the Colossus, the remake. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. I mean, basically, yeah, it's like, at this point, I mean, I can understand maybe justifying it right now with the way the PC market is right now due to the high RAM prices, the impossibility to get a GPU, somewhat inflated SSD prices, although that does depend on what SSD area you're going into. I noticed SATA SSDs are actually at an all-time low.
Hey, you can get a whole computer with a 1080 Ti for $800.
That's true. You can if you're that guy over there.
And an ultra wide for $600.
Hey, I'm buying an ultra wide. I'm buying
for
another
1,000.
ultra wide. I mean, yes, but mine's a 38-inch ultra wide with FreeSync at 75 hertz. 4 inches matters.
He's paying $100 an inch. Some men don't have to do that.
Anyway, thank you for that. So anyway, later this year, though, they're going to be getting a low latency mode for TVs that will automatically switch the TV into a game mode when a game is running. So
yeah, so essentially the idea with this, for TVs that support CEC, have a low latency game mode, what this will do is it'll be able to tell the TV, and I don't think all CEC TVs will support this because some might not support switching via CEC, but essentially once the game is just open because the Xbox can have the games in the background. So when the game is the front application, it'll switch into game mode, drop the latency, and then when it switches, when you go to like Netflix or just anything out of the game, it'll switch the TV back into the like theater mode or whatever you had it set at. So you might have like better colors because it has more processing going on in the theater mode, but then it switches to the low latency for gaming.
Yeah. So basically, you can go from not faking it for gaming to faking it for not gaming.
Yeah.
But I mean, faking it looks better, so that's fine.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, it's cool to see that they're trying to do some stuff.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really cool feature.
That is actually a particularly cool feature. You know, FreeSync, 1440p, whatever, but that is a cool feature.
Yeah.
That is nice. So, definitely interesting, definitely exciting. So, Android PPPPP.
Mm-hmm.
You put that specifically in the doc, so I wanted to say it.
Okay.
All right, so, what's going on?
Android P's developer preview has launched, finally. And by finally, I mean about the time we would expect it to launch.
But I mean, if it doesn't launch, you know, if Android Z isn't out right now, it's going to be finally.
Yeah, sure. Whatever that means. I'm actually going to be installing it on my phone. I already have it downloaded. I just needed a app that can open zip files so that I can do that.
And then you're going to install it. Are you going to be playing around with it then?
Not today.
Not today. Okay.
But
okay.
I'm just I was just making sure it was downloaded. But I just want to go over a few of the basic features. However, I also wanted to shit on Google for a second. Why the hell did you move the clock over to the left?
Because they're smart.
That's irritating.
Because they're smart.
No, they're not.
I know. I hate that. That
Keep
makes
all
me,
of the static
really
stuff
mad.
on one side, all of the not static stuff on the other.
I mean, the clock's been on the right literally forever.
Yeah, they're just.
Why are they? They're just doing this for fun. They were just
No,
like,
they're not doing it for fun. I'll show you exactly why they're doing it.
I want to see why they're doing it. Why are they doing it? Is it because the iPhone does it?
Pretty sure that's what they do. Yeah. Isn't the iPhone on the time on the left side, not the right? Or no, it's in the middle unless you have a notch. I'm talking about the X.
Okay.
Because essentially the other thing is that the Android P adds notch support. Now the reason they're doing this isn't because Google is planning on a notch. They're doing it because a bunch of Android phone manufacturers have decided to copy Apple and implement a notch. And they wanted to make it.
Or you can be innovative like Vivo.
Except they don't even have the patent on that.
Patent pending, okay?
Shut the hell up. No, they don't have a... No, there's another company with a patent on it. I talked to you about this.
No, I know. That was a joke.
So, for what he was talking about, Vivo has a concept phone where it has literally, like, no bezel.
Yeah, and, like, it's as minimal as you can get.
Not a small bottom bezel or a small top bezel. It's just
gone.
The frame of the phone.
Yeah.
And the way they did that was the light sensors are in the very thin part of the ambient sensor is in a very thin part on the phone's little curve right at the end of the screen.
Right.
The regular light sensors are on the back, I believe, to just the screen. And then
apparently the audio's been off sync. I think I just fixed that.
Okay. The camera pops up out of the phone.
It's really interesting. It's
Yeah.
a really cool idea. I'm surprised nobody's done it before.
Except Essential patented it last year.
Yeah. So the question is Essential going to do it?
Yes.
Now that it's been shown off, they have to. But
Now,
does that just completely screw Vivo at that point?
I mean, this was just a concept phone, not a product.
Well, no, but I mean, they can't make a product with that. Now the question is, how much of it was patented by Essential? Like, could Vivo do it in a different way, maybe?
Not mechanized, I don't think.
Not at all.
Pretty much. Not in a way that would be viable.
I mean, they could.
Without
I was thinking they
Essential's
could have
patent.
something
Essential's not
that lifts out of the screen.
No. Essential's not a smartphone company, so I wouldn't be surprised if they offer this patent to Vivo for a fairly reasonable licensing fee.
Except they make more smartphones than Vivo.
Okay, but they're literally doing that to fund their smart home products.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They're not.
But the Essential phone, like
Essential is a smart home operating system company that makes a cell phone.
Yeah, I know, and that's true. That's true.
I am very excited for whenever the hell they decide to release their smart home stuff.
If
now, please.
They need to release it immediately.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Other features in Android P, you can now lock the rotation to landscape.
You couldn't do that before?
No, you can only lock it to portrait.
Really? I thought you could lock it. Oh no, that makes sense. You're right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you can now lock it to landscape if you, for some reason, need to do that. Also, this is a much appreciated feature. Volume buttons now change media volume by default.
Oh, thank you. I never change my ringer volume.
Exactly.
What's the point?
Now, just give me a switch like the iPhone has.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I ever do with the volume is put it on vibrate.
Yeah.
So if I could just never have to go to the actual ringer volume, I'd be very happy.
Mine's just always on vibrate. I never even touch mine ever.
Well, I'm on call, so I have to.
Yeah, I know, you have to, yeah. But I mean, I think a lot of people never adjust this.
Yeah.
It's like at that point, I mean, you can always automate it with like Tasker or something instead of having a physical switch. That's something you could do. It uses a little bit of additional battery to automate things like that, though.
Also, Google has, specifically, this is for their texting application, Messenger.
Yep.
On Android P, if you get sent a text message with a picture, or I should just say an MMS, if you get sent one of those, though, it'll actually show a preview image of the picture in the notification.
Which is nice.
And they've integrated something that they already have in their secret reply application, where essentially you get the smart replies like Allo has directly in the Messenger. Speaking of which, for people that don't know what I meant by the secret reply app, Google has a subdivision that is just working on cool beta applications.
Yeah.
And one of them is called Reply.
That's literally the name of the app. It's called
just Reply.
Yeah.
And it adds the Allo.
You can't get it in Play Store yet. Keep that in mind. Yeah, we want to make sure that's why it's secret.
It adds the Allo-like reply functionality to the default Messenger app, Hangouts, WhatsApp, and a couple of other third-party applications.
Maybe don't know what that Allo reply thing is. Inbox also has it, where it's smart replies. Basically, Google reads your message and uses AI to determine how you're going to respond to it, and it tries to learn by the way you communicate and you talk. So when you get an Allo message, you get a couple of options in your notification screen that you can tap to just send a reply. So it can be like, oh, okay, or where are you, or whatever, depending on the context.
So their example in the image shown on Android Police's article is like someone was asked, any ideas for tonight? They said, how about sushi? They said, let's do that. And the options were like, see you then, sounds good, or sorry, I can't.
And so that's something that it tries to determine what you might be replying with, and then just sends that, or it gives you the option to tap that. So it's one tap away replies. They're pretty useful. Some people argue it's non-personal, but you're still choosing it. It's no different if you type it out than if it thinks it, and then you go, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say anyway. So
yeah. Another really cool feature. So Google has implemented something called lockdown mode. And I believe the iPhone X has something kind of like this. So they do. So if you hold down certain buttons on the iPhone X, it disables the face scanner.
Yeah.
So that way someone can't like take your phone, put it up to your face, and then get access. Yeah. Google has something called lockdown, where what you do is if you turn it on in the settings, then when you press and hold the power button, it'll bring up in the normal power restart submenu a lockdown option. This will disable fingerprint sensor and all smart unlock features. So like if you have on-body detection, which I use, Bluetooth smart lock, things like that, it disables all of those. So the only way to unlock it is with the code. So if you think that someone would want to or would try and get access to your phone, you can lock it down.
Yeah, and I think that's a cool feature. Yeah, you're right. iPhone has had that for a while.
Or if you don't trust your SO, you can lock it down at night.
Yeah, there you go.
And then also... And this will be really nice for everyone that's...
You shouldn't be with your SO if you don't trust them.
I agree.
Just saying.
For those of you that are concerned about things like when you talk about something in person and then Facebook decides to let you know, hey, you can buy that product.
Yeah, kind of creepy.
Android P...
No, that happened to us. That's why he's saying that.
And it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So their idle apps can no longer access the microphone, cameras, or sensors.
Which is awesome. I think it's about time
that
we
being
had that
said,
implemented.
That breaks one of the coolest features of Lookout Mobile Security. So get fucked.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And what feature is that?
So for those that don't know, Lookout Mobile Security is like a theft protection along with a few other things. But it has
stuff like that.
It has a functionality where if someone is going to pull your SIM card or reset the phone, before it does that, it takes a picture of the front camera. Yep. Now, if they're pulling the SIM card, you might not be able to see them, but if they're like just changing this, like if they're trying to factory reset the phone, it'll get like a picture of their face, and it emails it to you with the last known location, so you can give it to the police.
Yep. So now that kind of can't be a thing.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because that's pretty useful. I mean, luckily none of us have ever had to use it, but it's still a nice feature. Yeah, maybe there's a way that you can bypass it by individual app, though. I don't know.
But the problem is that if you allow...
It'd have to be something that would have to be manually done. Like, not something where the app can request permission for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure, though, that Facebook would still find a way to get people to do it.
I mean, probably, yeah.
Like, that's the problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they just disable it, period, then there's no risk of that whatsoever.
Yeah. There's a lot of other features. I recommend going on Android Police's. They have literally a full list of everything.
Right.
That
Android Police does good content, too.
Yeah, they do.
So, yeah, definitely.
Android P is looking pretty solid, except for the change in the time location.
Android Police?
Android P.
Android Police.
I get it.
It's named after Android Police,
When
guys.
I searched Android P, it brought up Android Police first.
All right. So do we want to move into the next one? This is a little bit of a bigger topic. This is something fun that I wanted to talk about. There's a little bit of
a dumb conversation.
It's not a dumb conversation at all.
It's a dumb situation.
Because the entire community's talking about this right now. It's an important subject.
Because the entire community needs to wait for more information.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about the NVIDIA GeForce Partner Program. Okay, so the GPP, GeForce Partner Program, has been talked about for a while. The last couple of days, it kind of got announced. There was originally a Hard OCP article that talked about it being unfair to both consumers and add-in-board partners. Sapphire or EVGA or Asus, for example, they're add-in-board partners. They make custom versions of the cards. And the GeForce Partner Program is basically something people are assuming that what NVIDIA is doing may very well even be illegal. But NVIDIA is basically allowing various add-in board partners to partner with them through the GeForce Partner Program to get more consistent engineering support, early access to their products, which likely, I mean, it's going to be related to both they say their technologies is quote what they actually say, but realistically I don't think it's their technologies. It's more so like products. It's going to be like they're going to get early access to GPUs and stuff like that, or maybe get more allocated to them, so smaller companies that aren't part of the GeForce Partner Program don't get access to that. Now, it's completely optional. NVIDIA even mentions that in their blog post about it, which I'll read a little blurb from that here in a moment. It's completely optional. A company can leave at any time. It's, as far as NVIDIA is saying, it's not a contractual agreement to the point where you can't leave for a certain period of time. But there are obviously still contracts that to be signed that apply specific things if you're part of the GeForce Partner Program. Now, NVIDIA is claiming this, and I'll kind of clarify what they mean because they made this sound different / better than it maybe is. So, in specific, NVIDIA says, quote, "The GeForce Partner Program is designed to ensure that gamers have full transparency into the GPU platform and software they're being sold, and can confidently select products that carry the NVIDIA GeForce promise. This transparency is only possible when NVIDIA brands and partner brands are consistent. So the new program means that we'll be promoting our GPP partner brands across the web, on social media, at events, and more. And GPP partners will get early access to our latest innovations." That's what it was, not technologies, I apologize. Latest innovations. "And work closely with our engineering team to bring the newest technologies to gamers," end quote. So basically what that sounds like there is a great thing. NVIDIA's being more transparent. That's a really iffy word, I think, to use for this. They're not being transparent because A, they're not talking about what the GeForce Partner Program really is. They're not releasing the documentation on it, and they're not opening up their architecture to be more open.
But they're not saying they're being more transparent as a whole. They're saying just consumers will have transparency into what GPU they're buying. Right.
But I think transparency is a misleading word in that situation. Because really what they're doing is they want it to be a little bit more clear to gamers that they're purchasing an NVIDIA card.
Essentially, they don't want it to be you buy, like you see a card that's like just essentially like a type of card. Now there's speculation on where the line is, and that's where the problem will come into.
Yeah.
But essentially, the line is either at the actual gaming brand, like let's say Republic of Gamers, or it's at like this one is. But they've made moves before to ensure that consumers know what they're buying. Right. It's why they skipped the 8 series.
We disconnected, and I don't know for how long.
Oh.
No clue. We're back.
It skipped.
Hopefully, it wasn't for very long.
They skipped the 8 series in the past because there was some confusion about the GPU architecture on the laptop end, so they skipped it on the desktop to make it simple.
Yes.
They were just like, no, we don't want to have any more of this. We're just going to skip straight to the 9.
Right. So that it can be there's a little bit of understanding of NVIDIA wanting to do this, but there's a few problems with this. So first off, according to HardOCP, it specifically says aligning their gaming products, not brands, their gaming products, which would make you assume anything with the name gaming in it is applied to that. That's what he said, quote, is in the documentation.
That they should have released.
NVIDIA should release it.
Yeah, nobody else has it. They should release it.
HardOCP,
that's what you do in journalism is you release documents if
they prove a point. HardOCP might not have a hard document directly.
Okay, but they have a digital file. They said that they...
No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. What I mean is...
They read it, at least.
Right, but the information that was provided to them might be provided in confidentiality by, say, EVGA. And if EVGA is mentioning to them, be like, hey, here's this information.
They have not had a company. They've only had individuals at the company because they specifically said they aren't releasing the names because they're afraid of retaliation from their company.
Right, so they're afraid of losing their jobs.
That means we know that EVGA or ASUS haven't talked to them as a brand.
Right.
Now, I want to clarify something. They're solely going off of anonymous sources and a document that they won't release or don't have.
Sources that are anonymous to us. Yeah. Not anonymous to HardOCP.
Yeah.
That's important. Now, these are people that...
Though, they are also claiming something very odd in that AMD was the one that asked them to look into this.
AMD mentioned it to them, and they said that it was probably something not worth it, but they looked into it anyway, and then they started finding out more information.
If AMD suspected something from a competitor of illegal wrongdoing, you don't ask someone else to look into it.
No, AMD didn't suspect of necessarily illegal wrongdoing. AMD just suspected that there was something more to the GeForce Partner Program that was maybe unfair. That not necessarily was straight up illegal.
But they would have found out about that from their partners. Unless, as of right now, there's no indication that there's a non-disclosure agreement.
But there very likely is. Because, I mean, what do you mean there's no indication of a non-disclosure agreement?
There would be non-disclosure agreements into the technologies they're getting, not into the program as a whole.
Then why are no companies talking about it? Because they're afraid of losing their jobs.
No people are...
No people. That means there's a non-disclosure agreement.
Well, we don't know that.
I mean, unless they're...
If HardOCP has the terms and conditions, they would probably have known if there was a non-disclosure agreement. That's why there's a lot of things as to why I have problems with the HardOCP's article. It's because it's all anonymous, yet almost all of the gaming community was instantly just, it's true.
Well, the reason for that is because HardOCP's been around long enough, and they haven't ever proven to be misleading. And this was done by the owner of HardOCP. I'm not saying they're being misleading.
I'm saying that if there's a lot of this question of where is the line from everyone, even them, they said, yes, it's the gaming products.
Yes, that's what they said. They they quoted it directly. I can bring that up if you'd like. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
But that also could have been something... What I'm thinking is most likely the case here, because I find it hard to believe that NVIDIA is stupid enough to do something like this, like what people think is the bad side of this.
Here, so this is what it's specific...
I think it's that there's a miscommunication and misunderstanding from NVIDIA's end or from the people that have talked to HardOCP. I think it's most likely from NVIDIA's end. I think it was poorly explained, but NVIDIA's lawyers would know this is illegal and would have shut it down, presumably.
But that's a bad assumption to make.
Then NVIDIA would have very likely be making... Because, but NVIDIA actually cares more about their image than Intel.
I don't know if they do.
Then why would they do the whole thing with
all that matters to investors is your image. Intel cares greatly about their image. They've also done illegal monopolistic practices that they've gotten caught for and fined by multiple government agencies.
NVIDIA has gone out of their way to lose product sales to ensure that people don't get screwed over when it comes to multiple GPUs. The whole thing with cutting out SLI, because it's not like it takes a lot of work for them to just have the driver still work with multiple GPUs.
Right.
That's not what they cut. They cut it out because they didn't want people to get misled from system builders.
Well, that was what they said, but they said there was going to be an enthusiast key that you could unlock.
And then people got mad about that, and so they canceled it. That wasn't they did that, and then people got
mad because they canceled it.
No,
because it was going to be easy to get a hold of that.
People got mad beforehand. I remember specifically, like, everyone was just fucking pissed off on Reddit about this whole enthusiast key idea. They're like, no, we should just have it right now.
Yeah.
And then they were gonna try something different, and then people got mad about that, so they just said, fuck it.
I suppose.
Though, I go back to, and the main reason I'm willing to give NVIDIA benefit of the doubt on this, besides the fact that unless their entire legal team is about to get fired for being this stupid, that, they skipped the 8 series specifically to make things simple. They like things being simple.
They want things simple because it helps them make a profit. But it's just weird of this specific thing. And I do have another point that I want to make here in a moment. But this specific thing coming out of the time where AMD has some really low market share in terms of gaming GPUs. Like, it's still been declining for the most part. In terms of actual gamers. Obviously, there's the crypto miners, but we're going to pretend that doesn't count. It's a suspicious time frame to announce something like this. It's suspicious that NVIDIA hasn't made an official statement about the allegations proposed by Hard OCP.
They also might be trying to figure out where if it is a miscommunication, they might be trying to figure out where that happened. They want to have the answers before they talk. No company should make a statement that's like
they can at least make a statement. We're looking into this.
Yeah, that is true.
And
but then people would just say the same thing. Well, why haven't they given us confirmation? Because that is what happens.
But I mean, if people are going to say the same thing, I mean, it's at least releasing some kind of statement is going to steer some people to go, okay, let's wait on it.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't think that they're going to ever release official documentation on it because realistically they shouldn't. There's going to be private stuff in there that they maybe shouldn't, and that's understandable. You have contracts, and if every contract from every AIB that NVIDIA works with was released to the public, that wouldn't be good for business.
But what I wanted to go back to, so like I know you're saying like this is at a suspicious time, but NVIDIA's had massive stock gains. Like their company is making way more money than ever, not from consumer graphics cards, but from stuff that AMD isn't even competing in.
And that's true.
There's no reason for NVIDIA to really care about the regular GPU market because they're making most of their money from other stuff.
Not most. Most of their money is still from the gaming GPU market. If you can read reports on it, the majority of it is still in terms of majority, I'm not saying 95%, but the majority of their financials come from the gaming GPU market. More and more of it is starting to come from the machine learning market, the self-driving market, the mobile market, other things like that. But
I don't know. I just think that everyone needs to just wait until there's more info.
I think it's important to wait, but it's a little bit sketchy to people because it's like hitting your opponent, AMD, when it's worst. Hey, we have the majority of the market. We're basically a monopoly at this point. Everybody knows about us. We have more money. So let's get the competition down to literally nothing so that we can keep the market to ourselves forever. And that's a tactic that large companies have attempted to do, is let's push into becoming a monopoly. How can we become a monopoly so we don't have to worry about the competition anymore?
But they also know that they're not going to be a monopoly even if they tried because Intel's getting back into it, and there's a shift away from dedicated GPUs.
Yeah,
this would have made sense a couple years ago to do. I just don't see how it would make any sense at all right now.
Maybe so, maybe not. I mean, ultimately, we do need to wait for more information. I wrote an article about this, and I prefaced the entire thing with, we need to wait for more information. But there's... So here's the quote from Hard OCP, though, is they said specifically, its partners must have its, quote, gaming brand aligned exclusively with GeForce, end quote.
And again, we don't know where the gaming brand
lies. What that necessarily means. And then he said, I have read the documents with this requirement spelled out on it.
But that's not gaming products. That's just gaming brand.
Right, okay.
And again, that's where I think...
what does gaming brand mean?
Yes,
does that mean a specific lineup?
That would have been clarified somewhere else in the... Generally, that type of thing, if they used gaming brand multiple times in there, they probably defined it somewhere else in the document, which they should have found in...
Right.
If it is in there. It might not be defined. At which point, NVIDIA needs to communicate better.
Yes. Now, here's the other slight concern I have, though, is a lot of people are like, okay, I'm maybe okay with this if it's just a specific product line, like the Mars cards or Strix, for example, or something like that, under the entire Republic of Gamers brand. Now, that again, we're just using Asus and ROG as an example. There's no reports of them being directly connected with NVIDIA's GPP or anything like that. So we're just using them as an example because they're a very good example. But here's one of the issues I have is a lot of these brands these brand recognition for specific product lines, not just ROG, but, you know, the ROG Ares cards or the, let's say, MSI Twin Frozer or something like that, right? The majority of those have been around for a very long time and are well known to gamers. And if these companies, these Atom Board partners, have to come up with new names and new product lineups specifically to tune to AMD cards, there's a couple issues with that. First off, they're less likely to sell them because gamers, we're talking about the average gamer recognizing a brand and going, oh, that's right, Asus Direct CU2, yeah, that's a good card that's been around forever. So I'm going to buy that one. But now that one's only NVIDIA. Even though that may be sitting next to a newer Asus Strix card, which hasn't been around for as long, and maybe the gamer doesn't know about that, and that one's an AMD card. But they buy the other one because they know that brand, even though DirectCU2 has been used on AMD as well.
But DirectCU2 isn't their brand; it's their cooler type. They could easily have a sub brand and then the cooler type.
They could, but the point is the brand recognition is what we're talking about.
But the brand recognition would still be there if they did that.
That's a specific example. It's not always a cooler type.
Okay, but most of them are.
I mean, a lot of them are just the card series in general.
Strix is a style of cooler. It's also what they call the card, but they could easily call it a series.
Strix is a series of different
cards. Cards the same cooler style though, generally, like the same tech at least.
They're a somewhat similar style, but Strix covers a large amount of products, right?
But they could easily do, like, Ares, just essentially have a just general name for NVIDIA cards. And I mean,
that's possible too. But here's the main point I really want to get at here.
That's why it depends on what it's...
Right, depends. So it all inevitably depends on what it means. But let's say that what we're talking about here, let's say one of those two is true. Either it's the entire gaming brand or it's specific product lines. Doesn't matter which, this is putting more strain on the AIBs.
I have a question for you.
And I don't like that.
Why don't you have this problem when AMD or Intel offer deals in exchange for, like, a new laptop launching with their computer, where they would obviously have to have a different name because it's a new lineup of products?
Because lineups of products in areas like that don't tend to be really long, decade-long.
But if
product brand recognition.
If someone sees a Dell Inspiron X whatever, they're going to know that. Whereas when they see HP X360 blah 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 AMD.
But there's never an exclusivity agreement where, like, Inspiron is only NVIDIA products or only AMD products or only Intel products.
Has it ever been, at least in the last 10 years, not Intel?
I mean, but that's not. But
we don't know that.
That's not a contractual agreement.
You don't know that.
AMD's mobile stuff has sucked for a very long time.
So Inspiron hasn't been a high-end thing.
No, APUs have been great for, but
APUs would be where I would see Inspirons having, because it's like that lineup and that
right.
low
But it's we've never heard anything of any kind of contractual agreement for that, and we have seen laptops from various brands or even desktops or whatever from various companies that feature both. That's more common. I have never personally seen one that features only one brand.
The early launch products generally launch on laptop brands that aren't on both.
The early launch products.
Yes, okay. And that's what I'm talking about. In this context, this is talking about, like, getting a GPU architecture early. Well, that's the same thing as what's happening with AMD, is where generally the early launch products launch on, like, the newer laptop brand that's only an AMD one. I've not seen, when AMD got their new...
AMD's newest Ryzen mobile APUs were launched under the HP Spectre branding, or HP X360 branding, which has been used as Intel previously.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
If it's the sub-brand, I don't see it as a big deal. If it's the brand, then NVIDIA is going to get sued.
And I would partially agree with you on the sub-brand part, but where the disagreement is, I think what a lot of people aren't thinking about, they're thinking NVIDIA and they're thinking consumers, and they're forgetting how this directly affects the middleman. And if Asus or
if
MSI
Asus thinks it's going to affect them, they can just not join.
And then they get to release all their cards 2 months after everybody else because they're not part of the GeForce Partner Program, so they didn't get allocated as many chips, and so they weren't able to sell them.
And if they have that big of a problem with it, they should get other companies to join in solidarity against it.
But those other companies aren't going to be like, so you mean you're not going to be...
If Asus and EVGA both said hell no to this, do you think NVIDIA would continue it if they actually, made a big deal about it?
I don't think they would make a big deal about it because whoever joins has the advantage.
You don't have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to say no.
No, and that's true.
So
but
they could easily just say, any one company would just have to say, no, this is dumb.
Right.
We're going to talk about it. Too bad we didn't sign an NDA.
Let's say...
That's why I want to wait for more information.
Let's say, though, like, Asus left and contacted EVGA and was like, hey, you should leave too because this is bad. EVGA is going to be like, no, we get the other stuff sooner. We're going to beat you in competition. So they're going to stick. Because there's a massive incentive to stick with the GeForce Partner Program. Anybody that's not a part of it is going to get screwed.
And then you just go make a deal with AMD and get advertising.
What I'm trying to get at with the add-on board partners being screwed is...
that they have to add a sub-brand?
They have to add sub-brands. And that means new logos, that means new marketing departments, that means a lot of changes have to occur.
Really, all you would have to do is make a sub-brand for NVIDIA and let NVIDIA advertise it. Because the big thing with this is that NVIDIA wants to advertise sub-brands. Or NVIDIA wants to advertise whatever the brand thing is.
Allegedly, that's what the goal here is. Yeah.
Well, they also already do that. It's just right now they have to do it with the GPU specifically.
Right.
Presumably, because they said that they, like, what they said, didn't it mention advertising? And what their official statement?
Yes, yeah. it did specifically talk about advertising.
It would make perfect sense for both AMD and NVIDIA to want a sub-brand of card that they can say, hey, buy any of these Aries or buy any of these Mars cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much easier than saying, buy this
specific model
Strix 1060, 1050, 1070, 1080.
Right.
Buy our GTX lineup on the Aries.
Yeah.
Whatever. Which one is?
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah. So I guess we need to wait for more information, but the question is how much more information is going to come out. We'll have to just
eventually we'll have some kind of confirmation if it's sub-brand or brand.
Yeah.
With YouTubers starting to
more
mainstream YouTubers starting to make videos.
Yeah, but not just with that. Also, just with as we see cards come out, we can kind of make assumptions based on brand naming. If all of a sudden these new brands appear from Asus and MSI and other companies like that make for both sides, all of a sudden they come out with all these new lineups and it's all AMD stuff. It's like, oh. So that is what it was or whatever, right? Yeah. Or if all of a sudden they release a bunch of new AMD cards that don't have, gaming in the description. Yeah. Right?
See, I would just, if I was one of these card companies and it was the sub-brand, I would just make all the new sub-brands for NVIDIA and let NVIDIA deal with the advertising.
Yeah, maybe so. Put the stress on them.
Yeah.
So we do have to wait for more. It's a little bit iffy and sketchy, and it wouldn't directly surprise me if NVIDIA was trying to do something monopolistic. But I like to hope they don't, because they specifically don't have too huge of a track record doing that. There's a little bit related to GameWorks. GameWorks was a little bit of a monopolistic practice. It's still speculated that Hairworks was designed to stifle AMD performance specifically, to basically make AMD look worse to gamers.
Turn it off.
You can turn it off, but this is the generic gamer we're talking about. We're talking about brand recognition, not, and like AMD's open source Tress Effects does a better job, looks better, and performs better than Hairworks on NVIDIA hardware. So it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. All NVIDIA did was they cranked up tessellation to unnecessary amounts. Anyway, that's one example, but they don't have a huge track record of doing this, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas, Intel has a big track record of very monopolistic practices, and they have been fined for that. They have been sued for that. So we'll just have to wait and see. Now, the next one I want to talk about is pretty interesting. I don't know if you heard much about this. I don't know if you even read into it, but the 13 major fatal AMD security vulnerabilities in their CPUs.
Fatality.
Yeah, did you read into this at all?
No.
So it's BS, first off. Now, not necessarily the vulnerabilities themselves. So let me talk about the vulnerabilities. Then I'll talk about some details about the white paper, because I read the white paper. And then I'll talk about some other interesting details about the fact that this is very likely something that is funded by a company of some sorts to make AMD look bad, to make their stock drop. So there's there's 4 different classes of these 13 flaws. So first off, it's already exaggerated because it's realistically 4 flaws, but there's 13. There's subdivisions of these flaws. I wouldn't really realistically myself call it 13 flaws, 13 vulnerabilities. So 3 of 4 of these. So this is where it gets fun. 3 of 4 of these can only be executed after malware has been installed on the machine, and the malware has to be installed via elevated administrator privileges. So you basically have to have physical access to the machine. And one of them requires a custom BIOS reflash in order to get the system vulnerable.
I want to add one last thing to the GPP stuff. So someone at Kit Guru contacted NVidia, and they actually directed them just to the PC Games article, the one that says it's the sub-brand. So still weird that they haven't made like a very public one. But they're at least saying, hey, read this thing that says it's this.
Right, okay. So anyway, yeah, so one of these actually requires a BIOS reflash, which means you have to be, like, realistically, you have to have physical access to the machine. Yes, you can do a BIOS reflash technically remotely on the OS, but it is not easy to do because you're going to need, elevated administrator privileges for that. So all in all, realistically, if you have admin privileges, it's pretty freaking easy to get various forms of malware installed on a machine and get various do damage. So saying that these are security vulnerabilities when they require admin rights is kind of sketchy.
At that point, just saying having admin rights is a security vulnerability.
Exactly. And so a lot of security researchers that were actually asked about this malware were like, I bet Intel has all kinds of vulnerabilities too if you had admin rights.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, of course. But anyway, so the 4 classes, there's master key.
We should write an article attacking Windows and say it's we have admin rights, we can change settings.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's not secure, yeah. So
I deleted System 32 and broke a computer.
Yeah, exactly. So there's master key is one variant. It requires an attacker to reflash the BIOS to a special malicious one. The example that was provided in the white paper, they changed the BIOS revision name to 1337, LEET. So that was this is a white paper that's supposed to be published by a professional group of scientific researchers. And the photo that they used to prove that they flashed the BIOS said LEET. So already kind of like that's a little weird. Yeah. Like that's unprofessional. But anyway, so then there's rise and fall, which allows an attacker to take complete control over a system, but it requires admin rights. There's fallout. So first off, rise and fall. Like it's like they're literally targeting AMD's brand name for the vulnerability here, which is just not cool.
A comment from the Mac Geek: if someone had physical access to the machine, they just take the hard drive and be done with it. Yeah,
exactly. Like you could in theory do this without physical access, some of this stuff, but it's like it would be ridiculous if you were able to get admin privileges in that sense. At that point, why do you need the security vulnerability? Just steal the damn files. You have admin rights.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, with the BIOS reflash, you're likely going to need to do that in person. I would never do a BIOS reflash remotely myself, and I manage a corporate IT network. So it's like, kind of no. But at that point, you just take the PC with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can get in and do that, and you have the time to do these kinds of things, just take the PC home and work on it from home if you need to get information.
And if you don't want people to notice, at least right away, just clone the hard drive.
Yeah, exactly. So then there's fallout, which allows an attacker to read and write to protected areas of RAM, requires admin rights. And then there's Chimera, which is 2 sets of back doors, one in firmware, one in hardware, that were coded in there by AMD, the company that makes the chipset for AMD. AMD makes a lot of various things, but they manufacture the chipset is the important part here on AMD's boards. It's a third party. It's not manufactured by AMD, the chipset itself. It's designed by AMD, manufactured by AMD. They're saying AMD has hard-coded backdoors in there. So this is where things start to get really kind of sketchy. And by kind of, I mean absolutely super mega sketchy to the point that this is BS, and the majority of the industry is calling it BS at this point. So CTS Labs, right? This is the company that reported on this. CTS Labs was founded a year ago. They have never published anything before. They've never talked about anything before.
They've been working hard on all these vulnerabilities.
Right. There's about 5 people that work for them. They're a small team. So let me ask you this. So when a company normally, like, let's say Spectre Meltdown, for example, when Google Project Zero discovered those vulnerabilities, what does the company do? They write up a white paper, but what's the first thing you do when you prove that they work?
You make it public, let the stock drop, and buy more stock.
Oh, is that what they did with Spectre and Meltdown?
No, that's what you're supposed to do.
That's what you're supposed to do. Okay, no. So what's the industry standard though? What usually happens, right?
You give them 90 days.
It's usually 90 days. Sometimes it's 30 or 60 if it's a particularly urgent one. Mm. We've seen a few instances of like a week, but it's very rare. Yeah. And generally those only happen where it's like, I never got a response from the company, so I just did it. Yeah. Because if the company is going to ignore me, then it needs to go public to tell them you need to fix this. Yeah. So
Meltdown and Spectre were the exception where it was long-term because of the fact that it was such a big deal and it affected such a widespread amount of devices. And they knew people were working on it because Google's team was working with them.
Right. And we know Intel was working really hard on it because they released broken microcode patches shortly after. So anyway, but you're supposed to let companies know. That's what you do. So what did CTS Labs do when they first discovered these bad vulnerabilities, these fatal flaws? Well, the first thing they did is they reported to the press. But then they told the press no. So they reported to the press, but then they told the press not to publish it. Yet they reported to AMD and said you have 24 hours and this goes live, and then it went live. It was published. All the information was published. The white paper was published, and yeah. So basically, AMD had no time to fix this. AMD's official statement was basically, yeah, we've never heard of CTS Labs. They gave us basically no notice. We're looking into this, but there's nothing else we can say about it. This is kind of odd though. They basically professionally said CTS Labs is bullshit. So anyway, and that doesn't discredit necessarily the vulnerabilities. It could be a real thing. In fact, they've been kind of proven by I think Anantech I think did some research into it, and they were able to exploit some of these. But it's like you have admin rights. Like it doesn't get like there's no vulnerabilities at that point. You know what I mean? But anyway, so interestingly enough, first off, basically CTS Labs and some of their information on their website, they basically said, oh, by the way, we might have an economical influence from this. We believe we are objective and unbiased, but we might have a direct contribution related to these kind of research papers. So basically saying, yeah, sometimes we get paid and it could be bullshit, but we think it's not bullshit. And again, these could be real vulnerabilities, so at that point it's not bullshit, but they were still paid to do this. Now things get interesting with Viceroy Industries, I believe is what it was. I can't remember. Maybe it's not Viceroy Industries. There's a company, Viceroy, that... let's see. All right. Viceroy Research, yeah. So Viceroy Research wrote up a paper related to this, related to CTS Labs research. They seemed to be able to write a 25-page white paper in about 3 hours, so that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I like this comment. As soon as I saw it requires administrator privileges in the bug report, I was like, isn't just having a hacker have admin rights already considered pwned?
Yeah, exactly. That's literally, yeah, exactly. So anyway, Viceroy Industries actually, and I don't quote because I don't have it open. I haven't been able to find the actual original white paper from Viceroy in the last few minutes, unfortunately. But they basically, along the lines of, they said, we believe AMD is worth $0.00, and that nobody should invest money into them because they're inevitably going to have to file bankruptcy because of these vulnerabilities. So basically what that tells you is CTS Labs, along with Viceroy, likely in some kind of collaboration, has attempted to make AMD stock fall because, let's be honest, most stock buyers don't know anything about technology, so that they can buy up some of it.
Yeah.
Or,
make that
more
money.
likely, they shorted on AMD stock. So now if the stock plummets, they make money. So a lot of it's really, really sketchy. There's the red flags. I could go on for probably over an hour about the red flags on everything related to here. The white paper was written very unprofessionally. I read the entire thing. That was weird. I read the entire white paper. It took me like 15 minutes, 10 minutes wait a minute, but white papers usually are long with tons and tons of details. It was like 12 pages from CTS Labs, right? It didn't have lots of explanations. They said that everything had been redacted, the proof of concept, because they want to protect your security. So anyway, yeah, so in the contrast versus like the Spectre and Meltdown white papers that were very much so about the technologies behind the attacks and the vulnerabilities, this white paper was written very much so in AMD's making faulty products, you shouldn't buy their products. AMD needs to fix this because this is horrible. And they also had, under each vulnerability, this one was funny. Under each vulnerability, they would have like the description of the vulnerability, and then they would have mitigations. 3 of them, they said, none. No mitigations.
Yeah.
And then one of them, they said that the mitigations were like, it was basically no mitigations. It was like, yeah, it was complete BS. So it was written in a very emotional and attacking AMD sort of manner. And it's really unfortunate that something like this would just come up. It's not cool at all. So it's definitely frustrating. I'm dropping frames? Oh, I just dropped frames for a second. Okay, it didn't disconnect. Okay. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. It went down to like 100 kilobits per second, and then it went to 10 megabits per second upload. Anyway, that's a little odd. Yeah, so that's the thing. So anyway, basically, don't believe what you're reading about these AMD security flaws. Everybody should be and has been talking about this. This is messed up, and I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of lawsuits against the companies that dealt with this stuff come into play. So
yeah, look at the Google Plus link I posted. Do you know who that guy is?
Linus Torvalds?
Yeah.
Of course I know Linus Torvalds.
He commented.
Okay, let's see what Linus says. I forgot about this. So Linus Torvalds, or Torvalds. Why did I say? Gee, anyway. So it looks like the IT security world has hit a new low. If you work in security and think you have some morals, I think you might want to add the tagline, "No, really, I'm not a whore, pinky promise," to your business card, because I thought the whole industry was corrupt before, but it's getting ridiculous. At what point will security people admit they have an attention whoring problem? Oh man, that was beautiful.
Yeah, he does not
Thank
like
you.
the security industry because they
It's
keep
become
trying to
a
mess
problem.
with Linux.
Yes. Well, yeah, and it's become a problem to the point where it's lame because you have the good ones and the bad ones and not a lot of in between.
Also, did you see this part of the disclaimer?
Yes, they have a directly or indirectly economic interest.
I love it.
Yeah. I was mentioning that a little bit ago.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I know you were looking into it. Yeah. So it's all complete BS, and it's just unfortunate because like Google Project X that did all of the they did all of the information on Meltdown Inspector. That's what a proper security research company is supposed to do. They did everything right. Perfectly. So anyway, this is sketchy, but we're getting low on time, so I have a couple more topics for you guys. These are pretty simple ones. So 32:9 aspect ratio monitors have become a thing of recent thanks to Samsung, right? So we're talking 49-inch ultra-wide curved monitors. They're like 4 feet wide, massive panels, same height. Basically, it's two 16:9 panels, your standard 1920 by 1080 panels, put next to each other, but no bezel. It's one singular panel. They're really interesting. They're great for gaming and in a lot of games. If you're just gaming, they're not really that good for productivity, in my opinion, because Windows Snap system doesn't work very good with them. But anyway, they're interesting. They've been around for a little while. They started to become popular end of last year. People were starting to buy them. So they've been 1080p resolution is what they've been though for a while. And Philips is going to be releasing, it'll be available at the end of this year, a 32:9 1440p panel. That is a 5120 by 1440p panel. So that is
not 4K.
Not 4K, but that's approaching 4K pixel count. Meaning that is, you're going to need some serious GPU power to push this. So it's got a 600 nits max brightness, so it's going to support HDR. So that's pretty cool. The refresh rate hasn't been specified, but that likely means it's 60 hertz, maybe 75 or something. I doubt it's going to be like 140 hertz or whatever. And there's no word if there's going to be FreeSync support yet or not. I can't imagine Philips releasing this without FreeSync though, and without like a slight refresh rate bump, specifically because this monitor doesn't have a target area other than gaming. Like, I can't think of another target area for it. It's just a gaming monitor. So if they don't put FreeSync in it, that'd be a little odd, I think, personally.
Productivity monitor for people that normally have 2 or 3 displays side by side for regular work.
But you can't split them up. You have to split them up by hand then. It's a pain in the butt.
Samsung could easily just do the same software stuff that LG does.
They could.
If they don't, they're stupid.
Yes. Well, this is Philips in this situation. But anyway.
Well, Samsung needs to do it too.
Yes.
So why doesn't Windows just implement that?
They should. I don't believe
I'm sure
they
someone
have,
at Windows or Microsoft will just do it.
Just
in the
do
Windows
it anyway,
garage.
and they'll add it, and nobody will talk about it.
We were
It'll just
talking
happen.
about how Microsoft, especially with their Garage program now, they do a lot of stuff. Like you'll find other software, and like that's normally paid. And Microsoft, like an employee, will just make it for free.
Yep, like Synergy.
Yeah.
Makes the network mouse and keyboard sharing software. Nothing against you guys, and there are some advantages to Synergy still, but Microsoft there was an employee, one guy, he was just like, oh, I'll just make that.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's free, and I use it, and it works great.
Yeah, so it's like...
I use it for controlling my NAS, and it works just fine.
It's like, why not?
Yeah, and Logitech also includes it now with their newer mice.
Yeah, yep, So, the last topic here that I want to talk about, though...
Second to last, I'm going to add one.
You're going to add one. Okay, second to last topic, guys. The Corsair Obsidian 1000D. Just got announced. So this is the Project Slate case that Linus had talked about and did a video on. So it's a what?
Shut up and where can I buy it?
I'll tell you the pricing and stuff. So it was leaked on Amazon. It looks to be it is the same case. It's really impressive. It's legitimately it's the concept Slate. It's a massive case. But
I still want the case that Post is
decently well priced. Oh yeah, the Singularity Computers one.
Yeah.
No, this case is massive to the point like I consider it massive. It's not bigger than, but I have the Tower 900, and this case is like this thing's huge. And if you look at like the concept Slate from here, so you see what I mean. It is essentially identical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's got the I think I did some checking to make 100% sure that it wasn't like just looked similar to it, similar design wise, but it's like no, it's the 1000D. It's got the double wide fans and everything like that, so you can fit 120mm fans sideways on the case. 4 tall, 2 wide. So the thing is absolutely huge. It's pretty exciting and pretty interesting, and it's also very cool. In my opinion, they are releasing such a monster of a case. But anyway, so it supports up to 2 systems, so you can have an ITX system in there along with a full XL-ATX or ATX system in there, which is pretty cool. You could water cool both of them. It supports 480mm rads on the front and the top, I believe, side by side. So just ridiculously huge case. $499 is the estimated price tag. So it's pretty expensive. It looks to be really interesting. In my opinion,
Shut up and take my money.
I don't know. I mean, you've got things like the Enthoo Elite for $1,000 or $900 that are out right now. You've got the Tower 900 for $250. We're talking about the massive case market, right? The big stuff. I am curious about the quality and innovation behind this, because some of the features seem more like a copy, not directly like copyright violation or anything, of a lot of what Fantex was doing with the Enthoo Elite, with the multiple systems in it, the ITX system horizontally mounted under the ATX system, stuff like that.
I mean, I think that just makes sense for any large case.
Makes sense. No, I'm not saying like what I'm saying is I wonder what the case is going to be like in the other aspects, because we've just seen images of it. I wonder if it's actually going to be that high quality of a case, because for that price with that much tempered glass, we'll just have to wait and see. I wonder how it'll compare to the Enthoo Elite, though, that is so much more expensive.
Yeah.
In terms of size, in terms of quality. I mean, the Enthoo Elite arrives in a giant rolling container with a handle, you know.
Why haven't you bought in 3?
I mean, because I already have a massive case. I don't have
but
room
you don't
for
have
more
an
massive.
Elite.
I know. Well, I mean, you know,
Work your way
considering
up.
how long my loop is taking to get done, maybe I'll buy this and use this case for my loop.
Yeah.
Because I have to wait until GPUs are available before I can actually work on doing the custom loop, because I'm not going to do a custom loop on just the CPU.
Yeah.
Anyway, looks interesting, looks exciting. Can't wait until it actually comes out. And yeah.
Yeah. So the other topic that I wanted to add to this, some either neutral or bad, but definitely in no way good news about the RAM market.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Samsung Electronics factory that had a power outage for 40 minutes.
That's not good.
And there are reports. Some reports are saying that there was minimal effect. Some are saying that as much as 11% of Samsung's overall NAND flash output for March, aka 3.5% of the global NAND wafer production, was affected.
Oh no, because RAM prices are still predicted to go up another 10% this year.
Supposedly up to 60,000 wafers were damaged.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. We've got our guy over here that works in a wafer plant. That's a lot, was his reaction. Yeah, that's a lot of wafers. So that's problematic because we're planning to see increases in DRAM prices this year, which is really frustrating for a guy like me that's sitting on 32 gigs with my 1950X on my editing machine. I need more RAM, but I don't really feel like paying $1,700 for a 128 gig kit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway,
we'll see how
that's
that
ridiculous.
does. It's
insane. So I think that's pretty much all we have for today, though. I don't think we have a lot more. That's it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, we're back, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll, of course, be back next week, assuming the internet isn't having problems at that point.
Coherent.
And a little more coherent. Probably a little less talking about lasers cutting the sun in half.
Hopefully.
We'll see about that. Maybe a little less, maybe a little less professionalism. Because we're really professional this time around. That was a little too much. So anyway, as he puts his garbage earbuds in, I'm just going to say that thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out all the links in the description down there. Oh, right. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description down there that go over to our website as well as a subscription page so that you can get email notifications an hour or so before we start this. We send out email reminders to people so that you can come watch it. Of course, if you're watching after the show, leave your comments. Let us know what you think of some of the news. And yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week, and there may be a video out Friday on the channel this week. There definitely will be on Monday. So, yeah, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and click stop.